Hello, welcome back to another video, and today I wanted to talk about, executive function and pathological demand avoidance, and how that works under stress, or rather doesn't work under stress. And I've been under a reasonable amount of stress lately, can't even say it, due to, of course, my dad dying and then my brother dying in November. So I lost 2 people last year, and that meant also, aside from grief, of course, a lot of things that need to be done admin-wise and still need to be done. Now, in my dad's case, he had already been moved into a retirement home, so he didn't have a house, he didn't have a car, didn't have to do much with that. All he had was perhaps a few subscriptions here and there. He had, of course, his bank account and I believe 1 or 2 insurances. And that was already quite a lot of stress trying to figure that out because I didn't really have access to his administration much. Well, I got a little bit, but not the entire thing. That had to do with his then girlfriend at the time stealing everything from us, but okay, that's a whole different story. But back then already I was like really stressed because I had never done anything like that before. I didn't really know what I was going to have to submit. I didn't really feel like I had enough information. So every time I had to deal with something that had to do with his passing, my stress spiked, and it also meant that I wasn't really able to do things right away when I figured out that I had to do something in the first place. Like, I would open my mailbox with a sense of dread because every envelope might mean that I have to submit another form, or I'd have to call somebody, or I'd have to do this, that, or the other thing. And in order to settle his estate, I had to fill out this 7-page document of what I knew that he owned and stuff like that. And I really didn't want to do that. And I could have said, you know what, I'm just going to reject the inheritance entirely. That was an option. I could have just sent a letter out to the courthouse here saying that I rejected the inheritance, and then I wouldn't have to do any of that because there wasn't really anything left to arrange. What little furniture he had in his room, which was very small in the care house, was already broken, so it had to go to the recycling place. The rest was just secondhand clothing, so nothing that really would belong to like an estate type of thing. And we'd already taken care of that. But if I had rejected to take care of the inheritance, that would mean that his brother would have to do that. And my uncle is already in the 70s as well, and I didn't really want to put that on his shoulders. That's why I ended up doing it instead. But there was still that 7-page document, and that meant that I had to figure out all the answers to the questions. Because there were questions there about, does he have debt, does he have this insurance, does he have that insurance, how much money did he have on his bank account, stuff like that. Had to get ownership of his bank account transferred as well, and that required getting another document to prove that he had actually passed away. And I had to prove that I was actually related and stuff like that. And it was a lot. But when I went through the process, after a while, I found, after some quick looking online, that there are quite a few websites that can kind of help with most of that. You can request overviews, you can request data, as long as you have all the things that they require, which is still a lot. But through that whole experience, I found that there are actually many places you can go to get many different kinds of information, so that was very good and helpful. And I think that's also kind of helped me with the executive dysfunction and pathological demand avoidance this time around when I have to take care of things with my brother. Now, I do have somebody who is going to take care of most of the notary stuff, like the more legal stuff. But I do have to do things like check the mail, and I have to go and see about his car. I had to do that. I had to sign that over to my name and then immediately suspend it because I wasn't going to be able to drive it anyway, and it needs to have its annual checkup soon. But if it's suspended, then it doesn't have to do that. But I did have to actually get it signed over, and since he had gotten rid of pretty much all of his administration, that one code that you need when you have to sell a car here in the Netherlands was also missing, so I had to make sure to request a new copy of that. These little things kept popping up, and I would get that stress spike that always made me not do something because it was too much work and it was too much energy, which I think is that executive dysfunction and pathological demand avoidance kind of like combined. You look at something that needs to be done and the stress spikes so high that your energy is immediately drained, and then you just have to take a rest and go do something else. But what I've been doing lately to kind of deal with that is I'll know something needs to be done, I'll have my stress spike as per usual, and then I calm down and go, okay, let's just take a look. Let's just take a look what it is. Let's just take a look on Google, look around a bit about this thing, that, or the other. Like, what does it actually entail that I need to do? And then usually I can see that it's manageable, and then I can make a plan for myself. I can say, okay, I can't do it this week, But I'll be able to do it this and that date, and then I know that there's something on the calendar that also gives me quite a bit of rest, knowing that something has been planned, meaning that I will get to it instead of putting things off indefinitely. Like, for instance, with my brother's inheritance, we have to sign a document. My mother and I have to sign a document separately about how we're going to accept it without the debt. So basically, if there's any debt, then whatever money is left after the sales of everything goes to the debt first, and then whatever's left after that, we can take. And if there's no money left because the debts were too high, then we don't inherit the debts, basically. Called, I think, beneficiarily accepting an inheritance or something like that. But the thing is, my mom's not doing well mentally. She's got some type of Alzheimer's, but she does not want to get diagnosed. I actually had them on the phone earlier today. Her and her husband were arguing back and forth because their phone or her phone is a mess. She is one of those older people who taps on any ad that she sees and then something else installs on her phone, and she has no idea what it is, where it came from, and she thinks the phone does it herself, and she thinks the phone does it themselves. So I had her on the phone about that, and then at that time, after she was done raging about that, I was like, okay, I also have some other news. You're going to have to go down to town hall at some point and then sign a document there because it has to be legally signed, etc. And I'm going to plan an appointment for you. I'm going to come over there and we're going to go together. Because she's not going to be able to do that herself. There's just no way. She said sometime during the conversation, like, oh, just go ahead and send the document to me and I'll take care of it. And I thought to myself, no, you won't. You'll probably forget about it and then it won't get done. And this is very important, which is one of the reasons why my stress spiked in the first place, because I can do it for myself. I can print a document and I can go and make myself an appointment for town hall and go there and have it signed. And then that'll be that. But having her do that independently, that's just not going to happen. So that means I have to arrange for things again. I have to do things. I'm basically on my own doing all this stuff, so that's also extra stressful. But I was like, okay, I know that I have to go over there, and I'm going to have to go and take her to town hall, have to print the thing out myself, because she's not going to do that, and then make sure that she has everything on her when we go there, that she can show her ID, and she can sign it in front of the person who was there to, I guess, verify it, and then we can send it off, and that'll be it. That's going to take some time to do, and it was definitely very stressful just to realize that I had to do that. But like I said, after the first stress spike dips, I go take a look and see what my options are, and I find that I could actually make an appointment for her, which I did, and then I just said to her, we're going to go on this date, rather than trying to go back and forth on what would be a good date for her. I'm just like, okay, this is the date. She's probably going to forget it, so I'm just going to tell her now that we're going to do that at some point, and then I'll tell her like a couple days in advance, like, oh, I'm going to be there on the 10th in this case. But I'm not going to ask her to do anything other than that, because she's not going to figure it out. And then it's going to be even more stressful trying to get her to do it right. So I'm just going to try and be there myself. And knowing that I have set that date is already quite good, because I know I'm going to go ahead and sign it at my town hall at a certain date, because I have to do that locally. And I'm going to go over to hers about a month later, and we're going to have her sign it at her town hall, which is near her house, which is great. And then we're going to have that done, and then we can move on to the next thing, which is of course going to be selling the apartment and selling the car. Actually, the car I might keep. I don't really know. I'm going to have to take a look, because the car of course hasn't moved in a while, meaning the battery definitely has to be replaced. And I'm also wondering how long gasoline is good for, because I heard somewhere that it was about 6 months. So I mean, the car probably hasn't moved since half November. 6 months from that would be April something. So I'm hoping that we can get that sorted before the gas expires, question mark. I'm not sure if that's even possible. I have heard him talk once about how he tried to use a jerry can to try and refill his car, but it locked the thing out for some reason. So I don't think I can just go there and refill the tank with more recent gas. So what I'm going to do, I guess at that point, is just contact the road surface here to try and get the battery replaced. And then while the road surface person is there, also ask about the gas and see if I can get the car started before they leave, just so they can actually help me with any other issues in case it's not just the battery. It doesn't help that I'm not familiar with the car, like how it operates. So that's also going to be an issue, but we'll see about that when we get there. And I think that's also one of those things that helps with executive function issues. If you've got it planned on the calendar, then you're no longer putting it off. It's going to maybe take a couple of days or a couple of weeks before you get to the appointment. or the time that you set aside for it, but it's on there, so it's going to get taken care of eventually. And that also takes a huge load off of my mind that I don't have to plan that anymore. That part's been done. But anyway, that is my thought right now on executive dysfunction and pathological demand avoidance and how I'm working around it for the time being. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I love to read your comments anyway. I don't get enough of them, so make sure to leave a comment. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye for now.